Hello everyone, welcome back. I was watching a video today. The video was by Porcelain. I'll leave her video down below. She did a video where she talked about eyeshadow palettes that she got her money's worth from, and I thought that that was an interesting video because I've done the one where I talked about the palettes that I own that I've never used, and then palettes that I own that I've only used once or twice. And I don't think I've done one where I talk about palettes that I got my money's worth. I know I did one where I go through my collection, but I don't think I've done this one. So I'm going to do this one. So if that sounds interesting, that's what we're getting into. Please take a moment, hit that subscribe button before we get started, and we're just going to jump into it. I have the pile right here. I do have 3 that are from subscription boxes, so I'm going to do those at the end because it's like I paid for them but I didn't pay for them, but I'm happy I have them and I have used them. They're still in my collection, so we'll do those 3 at the very end. Everything else are ones that I purchased that palette with the intent on purchasing that palette. Okay, so we're going to jump into it, and I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm just going to start grabbing from the pile. The first one would be the Too Faced Natural Eyes palette. I don't know why I can't open it. I just opened it a second ago before I started filming. It's just a neutral palette. You've got some matte shades. There's some shimmer. I use this as a transition shade. I use this to deepen the crease. I use generally these shades in, not that one. I use these 2 like in the brow bone. This one sometimes is a transition. Generally, I stick to these 3 on the lid. This one, lower lash line. It's a very easy, like when I'm in a hurry and I just want to do everyday basic wearable makeup. This is the palette I tend to grab. I like the packaging. It's very like thick. It's acrylic. It is domed. It smells almost coconutty, but I don't know if that's quite the right fragrance. But it is fragranced, but it's not as strong as some of their other palettes. But yeah, it's just a nice, it's a basic neutral palette, but I like that it's not all matte. They do have an all matte one. I like shimmer on the lid, so that's why I opted for this one. And I use this all the time. Considering I'm somebody that likes bright, colorful eyes, like I said, it's just an easy palette to use. It's pretty, it's nice. Next, we're going to talk about the Naked Cherry. A lot of people, I feel like this was a palette you either loved it or you hated it. I don't feel like there was a lot of middle ground. And yeah, I do feel like the complaints were people, were getting the same basic looks. I mean, it's a naked palette. I feel like that's the case with all the naked palettes though. Like there's only so many looks you can do with them. I like pinks and berries and mauves, so I like this palette. Again, it's really easy to use. It's nothing crazy. Like you're not going to get a really extreme crazy look out of this, but it's nice. It's a nice everyday palette. So this was one I wore it a lot when I was going to school. I'm planning on using it a lot when I go to work because during the week I'm probably not going to do crazy eyeshadow. So yeah, it's just a nice palette. I haven't had any issues with it. There were people that I saw that were having blending issues. I never experienced that. So maybe if you have had issues with it, try some different eyeshadow primers maybe. Because like I said, I haven't had any problems with my palette. I use it all the time. I like it. This is one that I used a lot when I first bought it. I haven't used it recently, a lot recently, because it's a basic neutral. This to me is a neutral palette. It's just in the like burgundy family, I would say. It's a cool toned, but this to me is a neutral palette. You've got like a somewhat satin shade you could use on the lid. This is a nice brow bone highlight. It's reading white. It's not. It's like a super light pink. You've got a shade to kind of deepen the crease and then 2 crease shades. It's a basic palette. When I bought this, I didn't have as many eyeshadow palettes, so I used it all the time. You'd never guess, but there is like dips in there. Like I said, I don't use it much anymore. I think now that I'm working, and like I said, I can't, probably am encouraged to not do crazy eyeshadow during the week and just keep it, brighter on the weekends. I will probably pull this out more But, oh, and I forgot to tell you, this is from Lunatic Cosmetics Lab. I love that it's shaped like a coffin. It speaks to my little inner goth soul that I just don't express enough. But yeah, like I said, it's a neutral palette. It's got 5 pans. Their formula is really good though. Easy to blend, it's pigmented. It's one of those, you're only going to be able to get so many looks out of this. Pretty much, so it's not like you can, it's very versatile, I guess would be the right description. You can get this one basic look out of this, but it's nice. I wouldn't mind owning their other palettes. They're kind of expensive. I mean, this is $35 normally. I got it on sale. They do have sales, so if you're interested in trying one of their palettes, I own the Elvira palette. Their formula is really, really good. I wouldn't mind getting their zombie one, and then they have one that's mainly orange shades, and I forget the name of that one, but yeah, their formula is really good. This is the Supernatural palette. I'm not doing very good with this one. I didn't say anything. But yeah, this is mauve-y, neutral. Like I said, basically you're going to get about one look. Unless you do like a dark shade all over it. So I guess you could get a few looks, but you're not going to get a ton of looks out of it. It's just a basic palette. But again, like, I don't know when the shift happened. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, so I apologize. But I shouldn't say a lot. A few of these palettes I used a ton like 2 or 3 years ago when my eyeshadow collection was smaller. I don't know when the shift happened to me having a normal eyeshadow collection to the obscene nature that it is right now, because I'm at probably 92 palettes currently. I'm not really sure when that shift happened. I was thinking about that today. I don't know. So that's why a lot of these palettes haven't been used recently, because there's just so many. But in the beginning, when I had a normal eyeshadow collection, a lot of these, like this palette, I used all the time when I bought it. Every day I was using it. This is one when I was rebuilding my makeup collection. This is one of the first palettes I bought. This is the Morphe Kathleen Lights collab, if anybody remembers. In black and red. I got mine when she was able to bring it back for a second wave. Because if anybody remembers, like, it sold out and then she was able to bring it back. I still have mine, and it's still good, and I won't get rid of it, because those are like these 2 shades right here, because I used it all the time, and the formula is still good. Like, I love these browns. She's got a couple of greens in here. Like, there's cool and warm tones. I don't know. The formula is really, really good. I don't know why Morphe can't put this out in every single palette, because there is formula inconsistencies between like their collabs and this person's collab and that person's collab, and then their palettes. This is a really good palette. If you can get your hands on it, like I said, mine's hitting probably the 3-year mark, and mine's still good. There's nothing wrong with it. So this is one that I would say, if you can get it used, like through Poshmark, definitely pick it up, because I still love this. I won't get rid of it. And partly because, like I said, when I was first rebuilding my collection, this is probably the 2nd or 3rd palette that I got when I only had 3 eyeshadow palettes. It's difficult to even think about that, like considering the quantity that I have currently. The next one is probably not going to be a surprise. I've talked about this palette a lot. I love this palette. Not sure why I love it so much, because this is a neutral palette. This is the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette that they did for the Home Shopping Network, this was actually a really good deal. I think this was $54, but you got the palette, a full-size pumpkin spice lip gloss, a brush, and a full-size Better Than Sex mascara for $54. So it was actually a really good deal. They didn't send this out in PR, and I think that may be partly why nobody talked about it, because a lot of people just didn't buy it. And online, like I said, it's a neutral palette. You got some browns and some pinks, and you got an orange and some burgundy colors. This is a brown with shimmer, and then this is like a gold. This is called Golden Pumpkin, but it's so pretty. And it looks like that on your eyelid. It's so pretty. I did a review of this palette. It's on my channel. I'll try and link it down below. I still love this palette. This palette was supposed to smell like pumpkin spice. It never did. It kind of has a vanilla-y scent to it, but it's not strong by any means. But again, if you can get this through like Poshmark, pick this palette up. I love Blushing Pumpkin too. It's very soft, that's why there's a dip in it, but it's so pretty. Like I said, you can do pink looks, you can do burgundy looks, you can do orange and brown looks. Like, again, this is a neutral palette, and I think people were like, oh, it's a neutral palette. Or it's so good. And I love it so much, and I'm so happy that I have this. So yeah, if you can pick this up used somewhere, definitely buy it. It's one of those that I hope they bring back, because it's good. I saw a picture that somebody had made on Photoshop floating around on Instagram where it was like one of these, but it was a pumpkin spice version. I was like, oh, they should come out with a pumpkin spice palette. I was like, there's already a pumpkin spice palette and I own it. But yeah, if they came out with a pumpkin spice version in a tin, I would probably buy it because I love this palette so much. And it's just a neutral palette. I don't know why I love it so much, but the formula in it, the shimmers in it, like it's good. So since I'm holding this up, we'll talk about the Sweet Peach palette. Now this is probably the second palette that I bought when I was rebuilding my collection. Once upon a time, all I had was this palette, the Kathleen Lights palette, and the Juvia's Place palette that I'm going to talk about later. Wrap your head around that. 92 palettes later. This is what she looks like. I'm sure everybody's seen it. Again, it's a neutral palette. Now this is not my favorite chocolate bar palette. I put this in with the chocolate bars because it's in the same packaging. Obviously it's a peach palette, but it's in the same tin. And probably the other one that I didn't get out would be the, if I can reach it, oh, the chocolate bonbon palette. I'll pull it out while I'm talking about it. She's in the bottom because this was probably the fourth palette that I got. So I know that I used both of these quite a bit when I had them because I didn't have that many eyeshadow palettes. But this one, and I've talked about this in videos before, is probably the one that I've used most. And I own the original chocolate bar, the white chocolate, the gingerbread. I own this one. I own the bonbon. This is probably the one that I've used most just because you've got browns. I've done just purples because there's purple shades in here. I've done a look with this green. You can do just peach. You can do brown. This is very versatile. I've traveled with it. It's just a nice, again, like for work, if you work in an office, this is a nice everyday palette. The only downfall I can see people having is the peach ring smell is very strong, but it doesn't linger. So once it's on your eyes, it's not like you can smell it. But when you're using it, like if you're sensitive to smell, maybe not have it right under your face, because if you hold it right here, you're going to smell it. And then since I pulled it out, this is probably, and looking at it, you'd never guess that I use this a lot, but I know I used this a lot when I had it because this was the only cool toned eyeshadow palette that I owned until I got the Lunatic Cosmetic one later. So I know when I was doing cool tone looks, this was the only one I was using because this is the only one that I owned. And it smells like chocolate. This one I see at Marshall's, and it's good. I like it. If you like cool tone shadows and you can get it at Marshall's on a deal, I would say get it because I still like it. I won't declutter it. Too Faced is one of my favorite brands, so I generally don't declutter any of my Too Faced stuff, but it's a good palette. Again, I mean, you're not going to get anything crazy. There's a couple pops of color, but it's a neutral palette, but it's a cool tone neutral palette. So again, this is a nice work palette. Like if you work in an office, most of these would, well, maybe not most of these. Those ones that I've mentioned are good office makeup. Now we're going to get into the ones that are a little more colorful, and I did not group them like that on purpose. I just realized that I did that. I have 3 ColourPop palettes. This one I love dearly. The other 2 are just okay. I've ranted about, excuse me, my love-hate relationship with ColourPop eyeshadow. I love these little plastic 9-pan palettes. And again, you would never know that I use this a lot. I wore this a lot when I was still going to beauty school. Again, I mean, this shade, you can tell that I've dipped into that, but I swear to you, I have used this a lot. I haven't used any of these in this bottom row, but I've used all 6 of these. And I've gotten compliments every time I've used it. You can do a really subtle pink look with just these, and then you can do super, you know, hot pink. It's just, it's nice quality, nice formula. It lasts. I've never had, like I wore it to school, had it on my eyes for like 7 hours. It's really good. I do have, these are both Kathleen Lights. I love Kathleen Lights. I've mentioned that I love her and tend to buy a lot of her collabs. I've got the Zodiac and the Dream Street. Again, I know I used these a lot when I got them. You can see that there's, if I can get close enough, there are dips like in here. I used this one a lot, this one, the blues, this warm. I have never touched this shade, but I wasn't as into warm shadows. I was very like anti-warm palette, I think because they were being shoved down our throats. Zodiac, I feel like I've used more. It definitely looks like I've used Zodiac more, especially some of these shimmers. I think their shimmers are very soft because there's like dips, and then like these two shades I've used a lot. I've used this blue. I feel like I maybe touched into this a tiny bit, like there's a little dot on it, but I've used every other shade in this palette. And I really like this orange. I need to use that more, but I think I've used this one more. But again, I know when I bought these, I was using them because I just didn't have the eyeshadow collection that I have now. So I didn't have as much. And I love her. So I was buying everything that she put out. This one should not be a surprise because this has been in several videos. This is one, like if I lost all of my palettes, this is probably the first one I would replace. And when I hit pan on any one of these, I'm going to replace the whole palette because I have really bad OCD. And it will drive me crazy because whichever one I hit pan on, it's obviously a shadow that I use and it'll drive me nuts, which doesn't make any sense. But I'll give the palette a good home because there's dips in these. This one, that one. Those three are going to go first. Are there any shades in here I haven't used? I don't think so. Maybe this one, but I feel like I've used, like there's spots in it. So I feel like I've used it a little bit. And I've used all of these up here. Like I just like it because you've got the browns. Like you can do a neutral look if you just look at these. Like it, and then you've got the bright colors on the top. It's just a nice versatile palette. Like I said, you can just stick to the bottom 2 rows. When the unicorn frappuccinos came out, I used this palette and did a unicorn frappuccino eye look with some of these up here. I don't know. Their Juvia's Place has really good quality shadows. They're extremely pigmented. They're formulated for people of darker skin tones, so they're super pigmented. Their formula is outstanding. They have 20, 30, 40% off sales all the time, so you can get some awesome deals. So I definitely recommend this palette. If you've never tried Juvia's Place, I would say get this one to start with, just because you've got neutrals and color. It's just an awesome palette. And this one's the mini. I don't know if they sell the full size one, which was like twice the size and had gigantic pans. I'm gonna lose my pile here. And again, this palette should not be a surprise to anybody because I have talked about how much I love this palette. It's gigantic. It's kind of a pain in the keister to store, and it doesn't really even look like I've used it, but I swear to you I have. I have not used every single shade, but the ones that I have used I like. And this is my favorite Jeffree Star palette, and when I want to do a different look, I grab this one. And when I want to do cool tone looks, I grab this one because you've got these grays, and I've talked about how boring, like this looks boring to me on the screen. Looking at it in the viewfinder, like this looks boring to me. And it's not. Like looking at it in person, like the images just don't do it justice. And there's a lot of neutral shades in here, so you don't have to, like, you can stay away from the colorful ones. But like the shimmers in here are good. Like these, I don't know. If you love cool tone shadows, I think you'll like this palette. And again, this is one I feel like people love this or they hate it. And I think a big factor of why people hate it is because the packaging. It's ridiculous packaging. And like the eyes, you can see are like, I have deep drawers on the left side. And so I have room to store this. But I could see this being an issue for people. But it's so good. Like I said, this is my favorite Jeffree Star palette. I use this one all the time. This is one of my, like, has become one of my all-time favorite palettes. When I think about my favorite palettes, this one's up there. And like I said, it doesn't even look like I've used it, but I swear to you I have. And I apologize that this is going to be kind of a long video. We have another Too Faced palette. And this is one, again, people complained about this and they hate it. And I think a lot of it has to do, I mean, you can see this. I have a small head, so that probably isn't a good size comparison, but here's the Alien palette, and here's the, it's big. I have room to store it now, thankfully. I can see if you don't have a lot of room, because it is big. The pans in here got a little wonky. Like, there was some rush in production with this, and I don't know why, because this is their birthday palette. So somebody dropped the ball somewhere, because some of the pans are crooked. And when I bought it, it smelled like glue, and that was probably because they had literally just rolled them off. It doesn't smell like glue anymore. It just smells like imitation vanilla. But the formula is so good. And these shimmers, like you can see I've used, like there's dips in all of the shimmers. Like there's not a lot of mattes in here. How many mattes are there? 3? I want to say it's just this one and then these two, but you can do all shimmer looks with this and they're so pretty. This is one of those palettes I break the rules and will put shimmer in my crease because I don't care. I have never been disappointed with the look that I've done with this palette, and I use this palette a lot. And like I said, I don't know why people complain about this so much, and I honestly think it's just the sheer size of it, because the formula on here is not bad, and I think the matte ratio probably does bother some people, but like me, I love shimmer, and I don't care that there's like only 3 mattes, because they're not all foiled. Some of them are satin. So like some of these ones up here that are shimmery are not like straight glitter like these ones down here, so you can get away with them. But yeah, I like this palette a lot, and this is one people complain about, and it makes me sad that people don't like this palette. Like I said, it's a beast. I'm fortunate I have bigger drawers now and can store larger palettes, but it's like, I would say buy it and depot it and put it in a smaller Z palette, because the quality is really good. It's just big. And then the last 3 are from subscription boxes. And this little one is by The Balm. This came in a tri box. I use this all the time. I've never used it like as a 3 shadow look, but if I need a transition shade, I use that middle one. If I don't have a brow bone highlight in a palette, I pull this out and I use this one. If I need to deepen up my outer corner, I pull this palette out a lot. I love this is the Smoke Balm. It's such a good little 3-pan palette. I think when I signed up for Tribe, this was like a bonus gift, and I love this. I will be repurchasing this when I hit pan, because like I said, if I need a brow bone highlight, this is the palette that I grab. I know exactly where he is in the drawer, or she is. It is. I know exactly where it is in the drawer, and I pull it out all the time when I need a brow bone highlight. Such a good palette. We have the Nightingale by Pretty Vulgar. This is a cool tone palette. I think a lot of people didn't like this because it's a cool tone palette. I use this one a lot. This is the palette I reach for more now versus the Chocolate Bonbon, just because I have it, and this one's got some more intense shimmer in it, but I really like it. Like, I love this shade Clutch. It's so pretty wet on the lid. And I use this in conjunction with my Naked Basics, because that's a cool tone matte palette. I like shimmer. This has shimmer in it. And then a Silver Spoon, I love on the lower lash line. It's just a good palette, and I'm very happy I have this. This came in a BoxyCharm. Won't declutter it. I love it. Super excited we got it. And then this last one was in a Boxy Luxe, and this is the Violet Voss Pro. And this is one, when I saw a picture of it, I was like, oh, Jesus Lord. It's a warm neutral palette. I love this palette. I love the formula of this. I have a mini version that has like 8 shades from this palette that I keep, even though they're the same shades from this palette because it's a good travel palette. This was the first Violet Voss palette that I had ever tried, and I like the formula, and I like these like rusty fall colors. I'm kind of not so anti-warm palette anymore. And it's just a nice, again, everyday work palette. It's pretty. The quality's nice. I know I'm going to get a good look from it when I use it. It's easy to blend. So yeah, those are all of the palettes that I can say that I use or did use and feel like I at least got my money's worth. The rest of them, it's questionable, but these palettes I can honestly say yes, I've used, and yes, I have gotten my money's worth, and they're worth, like, they were worth the investment that I put into them. So yeah, hopefully, I'm sorry that this video was long. I started rambling. I'm a little bit tired. You'll have to excuse me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Again, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you like these kind of videos. I've been doing them a little bit more recently just because they're a little bit easier for me to film and I can do them in the evenings. But yeah, I like going through my collection. I like pulling stuff out. Kind of reminds me of things that I haven't used in a while because I did love them when I got them. They've just kind of gotten forgotten about, some of them, not all of them, but yeah. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.